see, like what I was saying, we are doing this in accordance with our customary law, and even though the customary law is disputed in the Traditional Authority Act and so forth. So what we are mindful of is the provisions with respect to the removal of a chief. You cannot just come having a chief and then saying remove this one and put this one. There are guidelines we must follow.
Yeah.
So the mandate says remove and then amend.
Okay.
So with the mandate, we remove a vacuum exists. You see the Dongres, they have an issue because of the process was going well. Now the process becomes challengeable because they make those mistakes. We must remove, and we must go through this process. The position must become vacant. The minister must pronounce himself, be satisfied that we have followed all due process, and then he degazettes. When he degazettes, there is a 21-day grace period where you can appoint an acting chief. I cannot decide that. I'm not the community alone. The community is the wider people. Those people need to be consulted. The community will now then decide. We get an acting chief, of which the chief will now endorse the amendment process, and then after only 24 months will we have a substantial chief, a substantial replacement. If we come with a chief like this, holding a chief in the hand, we are imposing ourselves, and we are just doing exactly what was done, in that we are having a problem with. So we want the process to be fair and the process to be widely consulted. We must also bear in mind that this does not mean this is a government and administrative issue. We are activists for land in Commerce region. This does not by any way hinder or affect our land thirst and need for land. That's why as activists and steering committee, our mandate, when it ends here, it continues in fighting for land. You will remember that there are two separate ministries. There is a ministry for land and there is a ministry for this purpose. We are not mixing those things. In the past, people were making this mistake of mixing these things, knocking with the right problems at the wrong door. And then you are told, no, but we are told to wait for a long time, and then you are told we are not the relevant ministry. We are not doing that. We are not mixing that up, and we don't want that to be taken as such. We are dealing with this, the line ministry, with the issue at hand. It doesn't stop our need and our intention to continue fighting for land. And we had meetings with that line ministry, and those ones are ongoing. We had complaints there, and we have investigations also there, and those ones are ongoing.
Yeah. I know that you spoke about being guided by the law, but I want to ask also in terms of succession. Because there are two ways in which I have seen Namibian traditional authorities or communities do things. One, and I have my own views about, in fact, I have my disagreements with both systems, certain aspects of those. In the Andonga traditional community, for example, they follow a lineage of the royal family. And I have an issue with that because at one point in time, the next person in line, just like they do in England now, the next king of England is already known. Now with the old man also being sick and all that. My disagreement with that way of doing things is that sometimes the next in line is just a guy who is either he steals or he's a drunkard or has no moral uprightness. But there's also one within the Herero community, for example, which I think is more, for me, is more in the times that we are in, where they say Chief Vekwiru Rocco was elected by the community. There's a process that follows, irrespective of whether you are from the royal family or not. Within your community here, how did the chief actually ascend first? Maybe do you remember?
Yeah, I do, 100%. The chief ascended in controversial circumstances. That's why there was a dispute already. But it's a good question, and I must give context to it. The traditional authorities, are things of 2002, and they were stabilized in 2012. Like I was saying, we have a Damara Supreme Law. This is Damara Supreme Law. This law and this chief, the supreme leader, Justus Garwet, he is the one who enabled all these traditional authority leaders because they belonged to the Damara traditional house. They belong to the Damara traditional house. And if you go to the customs of the Damara traditional community, you will realize that, or you will see even in this document that the recording of chiefs go as far back as 13 or 1610 there. If you look at the sequence of leaders, there is no Gary from the current leader, Justus Garoeb. There is no Garoeb from there. It is Naribab, it is Koresep, it goes like that. So it's very clear, even in the Supreme Law, it is very clear that there was no bloodline succession. There was no bloodline succession. Even with Justus Garoeb, before him there was Koresep and Koresep's father. So it just goes like that. It just, you go and say Kurusep, the surnames differ. The people differ. If you come to the Tomani, because the Tomani, they were clans. They were regarded as a clan. They fell under the Damara traditional house. And then the eldest chief they remember was Methusalem Khamsep and his father before that. After that, there was Fritz Garisep. And after Fritz Garisep, there was a vacuum. And then it became Governor, the father of the current chief. And then he was the one who said his daughter must follow. Now, in the customary law of the Tomani that is adopted, and you must remember these things were academic exercises at UNAM by those professors just for the purpose of gauging how these communities are. That's why you find these things are disputed, because the customs are not the reality of the people. And there's a case that is standing. That one is Van Brede versus Jacobs, which says that for a custom to be adopted and to stand in court, it must be something that has been done for generations. You cannot start something in 2012 at your house just because that time we were there and say, these are the customs of the Tomani Traditional Authority. Because you must remember, people were doing these things for the purpose of getting recognized. Yes. So that's why there is a dispute on the customary law. And even there is provision in the Traditional Authority Act that if there are disputes about customs, the community has the right to amend them. And that is exactly what is happening. So that thing is causing a problem, and people think succession is a life thing, you cannot be removed. That is not true. Yes.
Yeah, because that is my issue. I mean, look, you can't just say we are the owners of this community, like we are just your subjects.
Exactly.
There ought to be, if you are a good leader, we can subject ourselves under your authority, but when you misbehave and think you are entitled to leaders for eternity, it becomes a bit of a controversy. Maybe for those that are viewing this subject for the first time, you said, what are the exact discontents with the leadership?
Look, the discontent does not just, you sometimes don't have a problem with people. If you say Tevo is our leader, we see, but it's been for years, 15 years. No meetings, no transparency. When we ask how land allocations are done, no answers. When we invite you to meetings, nothing. Financial reports, nothing. In fact, when we went to ask for meat, we hear that meat has been requested for every year several times. And the ministry requires of you to declare that, to inform the community that I got meat from Danfeljun for the purpose of the community, not forthcoming. We had an 80-year-old speaking at Dolam, saying that I live near the chief, even when we have funeral in Dolam. She doesn't extend to us. What kind of leader is that? So, selling of land at the expense of 80-year-olds like that, and then while an 80-year-old is crying for land, a member of parliament must come and get land just because he's saying, I want to have chickens and I can pay the 600. The 80-year-old is also having 600. Who is carrying more value to the Tomani community? Is that family tree, that 80-year-old? Because it's that person which we must learn values, customs, and traditions from. But if that person is suppressed and it is left to age and die in urban Windhoek in Katutura at the expense of a young boy who is coming from the north, it is very painful for that. So these are the problems we are having with the chief overlong. It's not just land. It is financial reports, things that we have asked. That's why we went into an audit, and it is disrespect towards the community. There's just no respect. There's just nothing. And sometimes we were also feeling, what's the point in having a traditional authority when they do not care with their people? Then it's just waste of government resources by extending and giving donations and sponsors to these people who are only having it for their family. It's just a group of 5 people who are they are just relying on recognition from government. This is similar to what was happening at Black Africa, where people were just having recognition, but they can't even call a meeting. The last meeting they called in Windhoek, 39 people attended that meeting. 39. That is the only meeting that they have called in Windhoek in the 15 years that they have been in existence. Further than that, they've never called a meeting. They do not have anybody supporting them. Even their own family is divided. Even the traditional authority, by the way, we have support from traditional authority leaders, and we have it on record, and it is also a requirement which we are having.
Well, what's in it for you, man? You seem very passionate about this fight to remove the chief.
When I grew up, when I was at varsity, people were saying, I'm going to the reservoir, I'm going to the village. I did not understand. I did not understand when people were saying, I'm going every time. When I was with my friend Kadila, he was always telling me, we are going to the, oh, you Damaras, you are just staying here. We were joking like that. But the thing is, it's the reality, and it is as a result of the land disposition. It comes from 1885. 1885, 1915, the Boers come, and then independence come. At independence, we are failed by our leaders, and then the land stays there with the people, and now we are landless. We're generational farm workers. Our elders must work, come back to Windhoek. When it is December, when you are going to Okalongo, we must sit around trees with camping chairs or go to Swakopmund. I don't want to continue doing that. That is what is in for me. It's a common.
As a common.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe just finally on the last two places, Nousport and
Bomkasbroom, yeah.
Yes. You say that will be the next stop as far as this exercise is concerned.
Yeah. The exercise will continue like this. Nousport, those are pockets, Bomkasbroom, Kanahas, and then there is farm for sales. There are too many people there. Yeah. Areas where we cannot reach, the people are allowed to write, what is this, petitions in support or against. Yeah. We just want to be as fair as possible. We want to demonstrate that there's no division in the community and everything is fair. I also want to put it on record that we do not have anything personal against the people. It is governance that we are trying to correct. It is the future of our children that we are trying to correct, and the claim that we have as Komani people, as indigenous people of this country and this region, that we want to protect there. If you go out there, 2,000 farms, we are only having 8,000 hectares. 8,000 hectares from 2,000, and those 8,000 hectares are Korasi Plus, which was just recently given. Arofle, where the chief was gazetted initially and in violation, where she doesn't stay, which is also a ground of removal on its own alone. Those are the only two places that we can say we have claim to, because those are the gazetted one. That cannot be fair. 2,000 farms, just two small farms that you have. It cannot be fair. We need to do this better. We need to go back, finish this thing, and go back in fighting for more farms and more land, so that we can restore the dignity of the Komani people, so that these elderly people who are 80 years, 70 years, can go into those farms, and we young people can learn at least what they knew from their grandparents, and impart that in us, so that we can give this for Kendanis and other young children to take from us. That's what's up.
Right now, we know we don't have candidate yet, but as a food soldier, we pick up there and there. We know what's going to be, but we are going to try. We're going to try our best.
When you decide who to support, what do you look at?
We look about how that person taking care for the Namibian people. How that person, after you done campaign, how is taking care for you guys? We need to look about this. There are people who are candidates, when they done campaign, they forgot you. They only remember you the time of campaign. We went to look to that one, and this time around we are going to see. We did ground, and we know what's in the ground. This time there's no jokes. Because if you see right now in Kavango, we are having two independent candidates, independent candidate in Kavango East and one in Kavango West, and it was not a joke. And this time around, people, they are no more voting cow. We need to take these things serious.
Absolutely. Before we go to Congress, let me just, one of the constant complaints, which sometimes surprises me a little bit, is the notion that people from the two Kavango regions are not properly represented in government at the high level or even in the party. Is that your view, or you don't agree with that?
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
And that one, it's coming back home. Because at home, we are having people who see others down. When he come this side, you see that other side there. No, those one they are Nyemba, those one they are what, those one they are what. You understand? This is the thing that make our leaders up here to say, oh, these people are being like this. Let's go forward with this.
Yeah.
But this sickness is coming back from home, gossiping each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because I know that people like Professor Joseph Disho is one of those who have complained here and there to say no, people are not well represented. But you know, you have a new deputy minister that just came from there. I can't remember his name now. Or Marungu.
Marungu, yes.
Yes, and you have the prime minister of the country.
Yes.
And many others. That's not very bad.
No, it's not very bad.
Yeah, yeah. But let's go to Congress. The outcome should be, in your view, as a bona fide SWAPO member, what kind of outcome do you want to see? Or who is best positioned to be put in charge of the party for the next 5 years?
For which position now? Secretary General or Vice President?
Top 4. Let's say top 4.
Yeah, top 4 is not easy. That's what I'm saying, that it's not easy. People, they are still there. They are still going to the Concord, to the port to see which those candidates. Then it comes there.
Should Meme Netumbo be confirmed as party president?
Because we know that Meme Netumbo is acting as a president of the party up to 2027, the term of our late Comrade Hage Geingob. But if they say she must continue because the president of that, we don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
To myself, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Unity, how must the party deal with the issue of divisions that always characterize elective congresses? How do we make sure, how should the party make sure that because you can't really avoid it, strictly speaking, because there's competition.
Yes, yes.
And people would want to say, look, choose me and not Kafu.
Not Kafu, yes.
But after the elections, you want people to say, okay, everything ran fairly, some people lost fairly, some won fairly, we now move forward. How do you bring that about?
Yeah, to me, what I think to that one, I read always Matthew chapter 10, verse 34 to 36. When God himself said that I did not bring peace, I bring division. And we need to understand that.
God said what? God said he's bringing division.
I did not bring peace, I bring division.
Okay. Okay.
Even to the brother and sister. You can see that even nowadays. Yeah. You can be with your brother, but you don't talk to, you understand?
Yeah.
That's what the Bible is saying. And now, to that one, my brother, I see it because some they go in politics.
Yeah.
Not because I want to take care for the Namibian people, because of his pocket as a salary. Because now if you see some of the ministers who are there, the member of parliament, you feel pity for them. Yeah. I used to ask you a lot of questions. Let's look for a manager to manage Namibia, not a leader. Because there's a difference between a manager and a leader. A manager to see that we know that in SWAPO, who's bringing this hatred is not our leader, the foot soldiers, the sympathizers, the SWAPO supporters, because they need something in return. They need work.
But where does that culture of wanting something back come from? Because some of the guys that are campaigning in the regions at the branch level, district level, might be a school teacher.
Yes.
So it's not like it's someone who's on the street and doesn't have anything to eat. They already have a job.
Yes.
But because I campaigned for Kafu and Kafu is now deputy minister, I no longer want to be a teacher. I want now to...
Yes.
That is very strange.
It doesn't make sense. That's why you see at the end, I have an example in Kavango. Some of the guys who was councillors in the small age, now there was 5 years gone, you are no more a councillor, you are starting suffering again.
Yeah.
People, what I found out, people, they don't understand what's politics.
Yeah.
They think politics is like a promotion.
Yeah.
You left your government work, you want to become a contract for 5 years. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, of course, that will now depend because, as I said, what is going to happen is, the market, is the one determine whether they feel the taxi fare can increase or not. So, but in this regard, of course, we will look at all the circumstances. But if we see it is necessary, then that will be now determined according to the situation. We don't want to preempt.
Yeah.
So therefore, as we speak now, we just the bus and taxi fare have just been increasing, starting from Monday. Yeah, of course, we are reasonable. Especially the association is not just to look at the pocket of the taxi driver, as I said earlier. We consider all the necessary factors. Remember, we have passed even the most catastrophic and difficult situation of COVID-19,
Yes.
where our members in the taxi industry have been, coping with that difficult situation. Remember, we've been operating half of the number of the passengers in the bus or taxi, no increment, and all those kind of situations. So that's why I'm saying the society and the Namibian at large need to understand that, of course, it's not easy to operate within the taxi industry. We need to work together, feel this pain together. That's why I say it is for our own benefit and safety. Because if we are not contributing to the bus and taxi fare as now determined, we are just robbing ourselves, safety and security whenever we are going. Yes. So, but what I'm trying to say is that we don't just want to look at the price per se.
Yeah.
So, but we need to look at the circumstances surrounding the taxi industry, the safety and security of all commuters. The vehicle that we are now we've been transported in need to be safe and reliable. So now you don't want to go to the taxi rank, and the moment the taxi driver open the door for you to get in, the seats are worn out, is dirty and all that. You don't want to look at that, to see that. So, but we want to see taxis and buses where we are going to commute, so clean, safe, and well serviced. That's what we want to see. So, but of course, when the fuel price increased, I don't want to say now here we are going to increase, but we are going to look at the situation and how we're going to handle it.
Okay. And I mean, you've also again touched on another interesting point there, especially on the issue of services, tidiness and so forth. And again, if you've looked at some of the complaints from some of the commuters, they always say things like, yeah, you find taxis that are dirty, you find some taxi drivers that are rude, why should they increase? Why should we do this if they are not improving from their end? As an association, do you guys perhaps also have some of these discussions with taxi drivers, for instance, also maybe campaigns just to enforce that tidiness amongst taxi drivers and bus drivers?
Of course, that is one of our constitutional mandate. It is within the constitution. Only that, sometimes the situation within the taxi industry is so, critical, whereby the association sometimes could not fulfill its obligation fully. Mm-hmm. So, but as I said, of course, as the time goes on, those are one of our compliance or one of the responsibilities that the association has.
Yes.
Of course, we are moving towards the developed world, and in this regard, everything is moving up. The industry have to grow. The industry have now to come to the world standard.
Yeah.
So, of course, the association is busy looking at all those aspects, whereby one of the aspects is that professionalism. When it comes to the taxi drivers, that must be one of the professional, conduct. When as a taxi driver, you must feel that you are on duty. You are in your office. The bus is the office. The taxi is the office where you have to respect your office and you respect the clients that you are serving. So now looking at the professionalism is one of the aspect that the association is looking at, and it could be one of the compliance that we have to enforce. So therefore, in the near future, I can assure you, in terms of our constitution, that taxi industry will be looked as one of the industry that majorities, especially young individuals, desire to work in. So because giving service to the people, it is one of the most interesting services one might desire to do, because when you are helping others, it's like you're helping yourself. So therefore, taxi drivers have to become professional, and NAPTA will still continue to introduce those professionalism in terms of the trainings, seminars, in terms of giving, education and all that. So just recently we introduced the defensive driving and first aid training. Yeah. Why do we introduce that? It was now 2022, and number of taxi drivers and bus drivers has been trained, and we appreciate really, because it was now across the region. Yeah. Although not each and every region we conducted due to the lack of funds, but we appreciate that because the many taxi drivers and bus drivers have participated. The reason being, we want to have safer taxi industry.